I'm gonna go find me a job that's making how low?
I think it's, I don't know.
What's minimum wage now?
8 or 7 something.
8, 7 something. So yeah, put me around there. I could work 40 hours a week making that. There's no way I can live on that. Yeah, there's no way you can live off of that.
No,
so,
you have to work like double shifts.
Well, Georgia's minimum wage is like $5.25.
It used to be. It's finally 7.
But the federal is like 7.
Yeah, I think it's gone up.
Yeah.
I think it's
Either one is terrible, man.
But anyways, let's say it's 7.
After a while.
No, you can't survive on that.
No, not at all. Of course I can't survive on that.
So then you have to have.
I need to make additional money somehow.
Right, and you might have
and
to
if
do
I can't do it
job.
legally.
So say you do another job, which most people do, right?
Most people try to get 2 jobs.
Working 60 hours a week, right?
Most therapists work 60 hours a week.
60 hours a week.
There's a lot of people out there.
I believe, and I don't know who invented 9 to 5, 40 hours a week and said that's what you need to do, because I don't believe in that. You can ask any of my friends.
Funny.
I don't believe
9 to 5 with an hour long.
Yeah, I don't
lunch break actually isn't 40 hours.
Some people get 30 minutes, but I don't know.
That's still not 40 hours, but
I don't know who created that system. But anyway, that's what you're meant to get and get your rest on the weekend. But if you're working 60 to 80 hours a week, you don't. So once again, we're going to go back to the mental health. You are working all these hours,
correct.
No rest, no break, no downtime, stressed out, just about making it. It's just an ongoing cycle. It's just an ongoing thing. Just even in that, you do the crime, you come out, and you're just continually penalized, continually broken down. And then talk about trying to get support and system in the community for mental health.
Well, think about it, Bianca. Do you really have time to get support?
No.
I have to work 2 jobs to feed my family because I can't get a good job. Because I've been in jail.
And you're too tired.
So I don't have time. Besides trying to even see my family, who has time to actually go to therapy? Who has time to get support?
Yeah.
Nobody.
That's not even on your mind. Until
survival is.
Well, no, but I tell you what they do.
What?
Drink.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely.
Smoke.
Yeah. I have to have something. I have to have some sort of
some
vice
way to
take the stress off.
Take the edge off.
And I don't have time to spend 2-3 hours of therapy to take the stress off. So what to do it faster? This pill, this rock, that drug, this drug, whatever it may be. Whatever will do it faster because I have to get back to work in 8 more hours.
Oh yeah,
to make enough money to live.
And I still may be drunk because I had.
Probably.
If I went to sleep and I just had to go back to work, then I get arrested, get a DUI, and then that happens.
Oh, that's right too.
Yeah, and of course,
no one taught them any coping skills or ways to manage stress.
Yeah.
No.
And of course, in every generalization, there's an exception. So you have your 1 or 2 success stories that people like to base. Like, well, you can make it, look at this guy. He became a lawyer after doing 20 years in prison. Or you can do it. And it's like, come on, let's look at the reality.
Let's look at the statistics.
The statistics says it all. The statistics says it all. And I've did counseling in the jail before. And I interned at a jail. I'm not going to say what county it was. But I interned at a jail here in Georgia. And one of the interesting things about it was all about counseling to cope while being in jail.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
And I wanted to do that internship because I was all for keeping people out of jail.
Yeah, it's too late. They're in there.
And they're in there, and I'm like, this is not really what I was looking for. But I kind of tried to implement it with certain people that I thought was going to probably get out. But it was all about coping while in jail. Mm-hmm. So like you said, Bianca, they don't learn how to handle the stress of the outside world. It's about handling the stress of being in jail.
Because it's an entirely different world.
Yeah.
It's an entirely different world.
Yeah.
You hear about individuals all the time that get out and they're just not ready for what the world is at that point. You've been in 10 years, you get back out, you're not ready for what's out there.
Yeah.
And it catches you off guard. If you're not prepared to transition into that properly, which, let's just be honest, you're probably not going to have something to transition you into it, peacefully, calmly, whatever word you want to use. You're not going to have something to make it a seamless transition.
Yeah.
Chances are you're going to need something outside of jail that helps with that transition.
So what is that? What is some things we can do? What is some solutions that we want to share?
I'm glad you asked that because someone on my feed just said that too. Said this is starting to sound hopeless. I'm with you. I follow you, Laurel. It's bad. It's bad.
Okay.
This is why, side note, this is why you see so many therapists and mental health professionals, and they seem very cynical or negative at times. It's because when you kind of study this and you're exposed to this all the time, it's really hard to keep a positive demeanor because it starts to seep into your core.
It's frustrating.
It's very frustrating.
It's heartbreaking.
So the same thing that kind of helps us is one of the biggest things I think will help a lot of others as well that are dealing with this sort of situation. And I say it all the time. And it sounds so cliche when you say it, but guys, it's so true. Your support network when you get out of jail is probably one of the most important things that you're going to have. If you get out of jail and you're just back by yourself, you're in the same type of stuff, you have no one really uplifting you, chances are that same hopelessness you felt going in, you're going to feel coming out. Yeah. And you're going to feel just as hopeless. And when you get your first, let's say you run into your first roadblock of the person that doesn't want to hire you because you're just out of jail, that hopelessness will compound. And you'll end up doing something again to end up in there because that's all you know at that point. In my opinion, guys, I think one of the biggest things that has to happen when an individual gets out of jail to help is a mix between therapy if they have time. I understand, like we just said, that's tough for them to carve out time for. I want them to, but I understand that it's tough for them to carve out time for that. But also, what is their support network like and how much encouragement are they actually getting? When you go, like you said, when you're in jail, you get treated like an animal. What's outside of jail for that individual to tell them you're not an animal, they're still a human being, and that their whole life is in front of them, or what's left of their life is in front of them? If all they have is people treating them like they're a felon, they're a convict, whatever it may be, nothing really, like we said before, if you raise a kid from birth and all you call him is a knucklehead, by 17, that's what he knows. He feels that's all I am. Yeah. So if you've been in jail and you've been just constantly called one thing or another, that's all you believe when you get out. So what's outside of jail telling him otherwise? Yeah. What's outside of jail helping him to reshape his own identity of himself?
Yeah. Well, that also happens before.
We hope.
I hope it happens before.
We hope.
The identity piece and the therapy piece. And,
it would be nice.
And the especially if someone has mental illness as well. In the Black community, tend to ignore it.
Pray it away. Yeah.
Until it gets really, really bad. Pay attention to those signs.
Pray
you
it
can
away.
go to the church. You can go to your community service board. It may take a while, but you can be seen. If you on low income or don't have insurance, you can go to your local community service board in your county.
Be seen for free.
And be seen for free.
Yep.
Yeah, you can get help. You can get meds. You can medication if you need it. You can get therapy if you need it. Yeah. And go checking out your community service board, so you can get that support if you know a family. Some people are stubborn. I understand. You may see it. You tell someone they don't want to listen, but at least you tried and you're starting to have those conversations. Substance abuse. You see somebody, they've been fine and they're starting to drink a bit more. Hey, are you okay? Right. You don't have to call out and say, hey, I see you drinking more. Just say, hey, is everything okay? Anything I can help you with? Because, people are going to shut down if you say, hey, you're drinking too much.
Don't go up to them and tell them they have a problem.
But just, hey, is everything okay? How's life? Anything I can help, any way to support. If you see their habits starting to change as well, because you don't know how that can lead to, if you're seeing the signs of any increase in different behavior or people are changing or any mental issues or any substances, then just have the conversation, just a check-in conversation, just to help, just so we can support. And I just want to say to the Black community, we just need to support one another more and not put people down, like whatever people are trying to do, however they're trying to succeed. I just see, so-and-so's doing this, or why are they doing it that way? Who cares? I don't care. Just do. If people are doing something, support and pay money. if your friend is doing something, support them. Support comes in. Oh, you pay money. You're gonna support. You're gonna encourage. You're gonna let them know it's possible. Because you know what? That one support may stop someone from going to do something that's illegal, right? Or going to get them in trouble. It may stop someone from maybe trying to commit suicide. It may stop someone from going to drink. You don't know. Like, support, like, is huge.
Jerry, I love Bianca's passion. I do.
Go and support.
But also looking, another solution is really looking into some reentry programs, because there's a lot of reentry programs. Well, I don't want to say a lot, but there's a good amount of reentry
There's
programs.
more than people realize.
Yeah, there's more than people realize. Reentry programs that are out there that can help you assimilate back into the community, because that's what's really that's what's difficult. It's kind of like, you know what? It's kind of like when you go off to Iraq and you come and do a tour,
Right.
and you come back and you have PTSD. It's
Right.
really literally
It's exactly
the same
what it's like.
exact thing.
That's exactly
It's
what
like
it's
you go to jail, you come back and you're trying to assimilate back into the community, but you can't, because it's difficult, because you've been trained or you've been accustomed to something for so long that it's difficult.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right.
And so look into those reentry programs that can
That's
help.
what I'm reading.
That look into those reentry programs that could really assist with assimilating back into the community and prevent from going back into jail.
Right. Somebody on my feed asked a great question. What about families that normalize drug and criminal behaviors? And how do the individuals, when they get out of jail, get help if that's what their environment is?
You gotta step out your environment.
Yeah, I was just thinking that in my head.
I mean, you do have to.
It's hard.
It's a simple sentence, but it's so hard to implement.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you get rid of your family.
It's just you
You're just
recognize.
gonna look for help in another place.
You recognize who needs to be in that
People
inner
push the
circle.
things.
Right. You recognize who needs to be in that inner circle compared to that outer circle. Not saying cut your family and friends off, but
people, places, and things.
they may not need to be the closest friends to you if they celebrate drug behavior. They celebrate criminal behavior, the same things that Jay has probably got locked up for.
But it said, but those are your resources.
You need.
What they say?
You said those are your resources.
You got options.
Ooh, I would do everything in my power to try to find
No.
I
some
wouldn't
other
consider
type of
that
resource.
I wouldn't consider that a resource if they're normalizing criminal behavior and drugs, and that's not really your resource. That's really
Yeah.
what's landing. That's what's landing you back into the situation, or landing you going back into jail. So there's not really your resources.
I would say it's more. That's all. That's just your environment. That's what you know. It's your comfort zone more than your resource.
Yeah, it's your comfort zone. And understand, we're not saying don't talk to your family, get rid of your family. No, we're talking about to broaden
your privilege is showing.
We're talking about to broaden your perspective, because whenever we have people come in and the family is a big issue, I never ever tell anyone to get rid of their family. That is not it. You have to broaden. There are things out there. There are things you may have to do something you've never done before. And yes, it is scary, and you're out of your comfort zone.
I would say broaden your perspective and start to set boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I think boundaries becomes a very important thing at that point. You're welcome to hang and be around whatever resources you want to be around. But if drugs and certain things have been an issue for you and they're still engaging in a lot of that around you, then it begs the question of how much respect do they have for what you're going through, especially if you've possibly asked them to please stop doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I understand a lot of times if you've been going for a while, you've been incarcerated for a while, you finally get back home, the first thing you don't want to do is police your family.
Mm-hmm.
And say, hey guys, I don't need you all to do this around me. But the road that individual is about to go on is probably extremely difficult anyway. Some difficult conversations have to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, they just have to happen.
They had to set boundaries, and their whole family
It can work.
is using, and they don't like it. They'll be like, hey,
It can
all right,
work.
we'll respect you. Like, I know people like that who their whole family, and they set the boundary, they spoke up, and
It ain't easy.
no, it's not easy.
As you said, that may be their definition of the norm. Oh, definitely. Which, of course, oh God, education in our community needs to increase tenfold.
Definition of absolutely.
It needs to increase a lot
Absolutely.
in our community.
Absolutely, if it is your norm. But I think the question was, what was the question? I think the question is, where do people go? Was that the initial question? And we're talking about someone who wants to go ahead and make the change. Some people may come out and not want to make a change, may not want to separate the things. So I can't remember what the person had asked first.
No, you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, because
she agreed. Because
I think if the question is if they want to change, what do they do now if they come out and they want to get that help?
Yeah,
right.
What do they have to do? Because not everybody wants to.
Exactly.
Or is ready. I don't know if I want to say everyone's.
You can say is ready or want to, and honestly, it's almost interchangeable.
But I think that's important that you make that distinction. That we make that distinction that we're talking about people who want to make the change as opposed to people who don't want to make the change.
Right.
So that's just to go back to your privilege is showing comment.
But you know what? No, I'm glad that we made that distinction because, and I'll say it. One of the hardest things to do in therapy is work with individuals that do not want to change. I tend to have a mindset that I'm sorry if it sounds this way. I tend to have a mindset that if an individual does not want to change, I'm not going to break myself trying to figure out how to make that person change.
I agree.
Once an individual has reached a certain age, for some people it's adulthood, for some people it's right before you become an adult, and an individual wants to continuously do what they want to do, it is so hard, borderline impossible, without that individual going through an experience to change that person's mindset. Okay. And that's where a lot of people tend to beat their heads is, how do I prevent this person from even going to jail in the first place, or how do I do all of this? You can try to give as much education as possible in the community, but unfortunately, if that individual has it set in their mind that they want to do certain things, it's what they're going to do. So to anyone watching, to moms, dads, sisters, brothers, concerned friends, if that individual is going down a path of destruction, you can try to talk to them and show them all the different directions they can go, but you can't do it for them. And I'd hate to see individuals watching or that have family members or friends watching that stress themselves out thinking, how do I stop this from happening from this person? Yeah. Well, you can't. Okay. You can give them all the information in the world, but if that person is determined to want to live this life, it's what they're going to do. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate, but it's true. Yep.
Yeah. Any other ways we wanted to add about change and what can we do? What can people who are watching kind of do in that respect? Just in regards to incarceration, someone's arrested, we can't stop, but just anything before or during or after that we want to add.
Let's say that if you have a family member or a friend who has been in jail, even if it's just for one night, I believe that individual needs as much support and encouragement from you as possible. Chances are, if they've been in jail, and again, we're talking about individuals that are open to that change. If they've been in jail, the last thing that would help them is to come home and be reminded about how much they've been in jail, what got them in jail, all of that. It's the individual they've been through rehabilitation, they've been through the process, so to speak. Yeah. They've done the rehab. If an individual had a drug problem, you don't bring them home after rehab and constantly tell them about their drug problem. Yeah. So if an individual has been in jail, when you bring them home, jail should not be what you constantly talk to that person and refer to them as. Mm. They need to be reminded about their humanity, about their identity before they went to jail, and about what their potential to be, what their potential can be. Instead of just talking so much about, oh, this is what got you here and this is what caused this. Mm. When we focus on the negative like that, the negative is what gets constantly reinforced. Mm-hmm.
And if someone, the other point is someone does come out and you do notice a change, especially in regards to their mental health, and just getting them checked to see if they can go to a hospital or even to the ER if you have to. Or I can go back again to your community service board if you do notice a change and they're open to going. And just know, I think that they will be a changed person. They're going to be a changed person.
They're going to be
and
different.
So there's going to be some patience and some time. Also, things in the community, continuing to make awareness about mental health and
Guys, it doesn't mean anyone's crazy. Yeah. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It's we just need to be more aware of mental health. It doesn't mean the individual's schizophrenic. Doesn't mean they're bipolar. It just means this individual is having a hard time coping with the world around them. Yep. And they need support. It's as simple as that.
Yep. I like that definition.
It's what it is.
It's exactly having a hard time coping with the world around them, and they need some help. And then the addictions piece, because we do talk about a lot of people being arrested for the crack. Drug,
the crack.
Crack.
You got me there.
The crack. Of course, the opioid and all those things, but in particular for the crack, cocaine, also for DUIs and anything like that. I do want people to remember that addictions is a disease. It's not that people have a willpower and they can just stop. And what I say is disease is because it affects the dopamine. Mm-hmm. It affects the dopamine. Dopamine is what gives us the happy pleasures in the brain, happiness in the brain. And when that people use, is in particular, it releases extra dopamine in the brain. And so people always want to get that high. And the first high, they can never get the first high, but that's why it's a disease, because of that factor, and that it can be managed, but it's always going to be there. So if you're thinking, well, why don't they just stop? They need the support and need to get the help and the treatment to stop. Mm-hmm. And so you can educate yourself. There's NAMI, there's many organizations out mm-hmm. there to support for the mental illness and also for addictions as well, to also educate yourself. But if someone,
education is the biggest thing.
It's huge, and support. If somebody's not ready to change, the fact that you support and treat them like a human being mm-hmm. is huge, because they may not want to change right away or take ownership, especially with the mental illness and addictions. But if you still continue to treat them like a human being, that doesn't mean they have to disrespect you. You're still going to set boundaries with them. But you still treat them like a human being, and you give them support whenever, because people are not always using, and when they're not using, they're cool. You're going to hang out with them. They're a great person. But you just set the boundaries maybe when they are for you. But if you give them that support and human beings, people are going to come back. People are going to trust you, and people are going to feel like
come back. Trust me, they'll be back.
At some time, they feel like they have some hope and that this is going to be possible. So I think that's the education piece, the support piece mm-hmm. Is huge. And please, if you haven't seen the documentaries of the Khalif Browder and the 13 on Netflix, I highly encourage you to watch it. Like, some people might be your video ended. Some people that's might
fix that.
What was the other thing? You might want to go and start going into policy and into politics and going into changes for that as well. There was a couple of things I've seen on TED Talks, a couple of them, where I think it was in Boston, where they're starting to, if people get arrested, they're getting information on the people that have been arrested. Well, why did they arrest? Why did they commit the crime? Especially if it's like stealing and things like that. And then they make a way and make it possible for them. It's on a TED Talk. I can't remember its name.
That's interesting.
Now. Yeah, it was a really good TED Talk. There was a couple of them so there are people going out there doing some work and helping people get the support that they really need, mm-hmm. Which is going to be the housing, the employment, the mental health aspect, and not just locking them up.
Something sticks out to me, Bianca, about the support, though. Support is a broad term, and a lot of us have a tendency. No, you're using it correctly. You're fine.
Okay.
You get a lot of people that give what they think. Excuse me.
And does anyone have any questions? Just while Justin's talking, if you have any questions,
type
put it in the comments.
Yeah, type them. We can see them. When a lot of people have a tendency to give support, their support starts to blur that line between support / encouragement and direction and criticism. Mm. And if I've been incarcerated for years, mm-hmm. if I've been locked up for years, the last thing that I can think an individual that's been locked up wants is to immediately come out and be told what to do again. Mm-hmm. It feels like that's a very quick way to get an individual to stop listening or to stop responding. Yeah. Is to immediately tell that person, okay, now that you're out of jail, this is what you need to do. Mm-hmm. See,
Yeah.
I think a certain amount of encouraged independence will go a long way.
Yeah.
Instead of guided independence.
Yeah.
Meaning, don't tell them how to be independent. Don't push them that direction. Just mainly encourage them in their own decision making and their own independence. And I think that will carry someone significantly longer, significantly better than just telling them what to do.
Mm-hmm. Someone pointed out this will go back to working with families on their transitions.
That's an excellent point.
Oh,
That's an excellent point.
That's a great
Families
point.
do need to be worked with when
Yeah.
an individual comes home.
Yeah.
Absolutely does.
Work so they can learn how to support.
Right.
You know.
But sometimes they're cut off from their family.
Mm-hmm.
Well, until they get out. Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that's another issue. Again, going back to the money to be able to see them or afford contact and things like that.
Right.
That's another good point too.
That's a great point. Thank you, Laura. That's a great point.
So does anyone have any questions? I'm just that you guys might want to ask
Oh, you
before
got
we.
yours down there. Okay.
This is Jared's. Mine is here.
Oh, okay.
Mine's got questions?
I'm on it. Trying to go back
Okay.
and forth.
That works.
No, I think yours. People were just making a lot more comments on yours than any questions. Think anyone? All right.
So you mentioned Bianca, something you had written down I really like. That not, and Jared, you touched on it earlier, right before we went live. Not every, besides the fact that there are not no treatment centers, but when an individual's incarcerated, certain treatments can't even be used. Certain medications can't even be taken. Certain things can't be done. So that individual could possibly be their whole time while they're in jail. They could be sitting there getting no help.
Yep.
Or they're taking. They might not be. They might be just given generic.
Or they're getting
medication.
very ineffective help. Right.
Yep.
Because everyone's body
Very
is different
true.
and responds different to
So
medication.
true.
So they're going to get the basic medication.
Yeah.
Or could be too much for them or not enough.
Yeah.
They don't get that.
Well, because I think, and I feel like someone mentioned it earlier in one of our chats, that a lot of time, besides the rehabilitation piece, and I'm going to keep putting that in quotes, I'm cynical, I'm sorry. Besides the rehabilitation piece, individuals aren't really given a lot of things in jail to help them, but more to stabilize. A lot of the mental health treatment that jail provides, because again, jail and prison aren't places to help people get better. It's a mix between punishment, let's say punishment, timeout, and them getting rehab. So they're not meant to get better in jail so much as they're meant to just be stable.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep you here until your time is passed and then you're out.
Yep.
So if you're dealing with mental health, if you're struggling with that, you're not going to get necessarily the help you need in jail. You're going to get that. You're going to get that when you get out, if you can.
Yeah.
And that's a big part.
Okay. All right. So we don't have any other questions. We really need to do that broadcast, but we're not going to do anything until the new year.
Which broadcast?
I think the other one was Black Mothers Raising Black.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Man.
We'll do that at the beginning of the year.
Beginning of the year. That's the next one.
Yeah, we're
Beginning
taking a
of the
break.
year.
We need to rest. So we're not going to do anything until next year, but we're still going to continue on the subject of Black community. Still going to surround the Black community, of course, and then mental health, as we are therapists. So from our perspective, just in saying that we don't have the whole picture, there are some limitations in our perspective.
Oh, definitely.
As well. From that point, but that's the standpoint that we come from. So we just want to say, you have one more question. What's that?
Oh,
I think we answered that.
We've looked at impact of prisons, and what are your thoughts about the impact on minority communities? The answer, in my opinion, comes.
How do we push back effectively?
How do we push back effectively? The answer is actually within the question, in my opinion. It's that community aspect. It's that within our communities, we have got to learn how to come together. I love using the word unite. We've got to learn how to unite as a community and start to educate as a whole.
Yeah.
And recognize that.
The mind shift.
we've got it's a huge mind shift. It's not easy at all. I wish it was, but it's not. We've got to start to come together and actually educate the whole community. So like we've talked about the support piece when an individual comes home, that support shouldn't just come from their immediate family. It needs. I wish they could receive that support from their whole community.
It takes a village.
Exactly. That's it. Exactly.
It always goes back to the
Exactly.
unity and togetherness. Like I can have my one hand, there's only so much I can do, but if I bring my two hands together and I turn my hands around, look, they're entwined and they're stronger and they can hold more. And that's the community. Like alone, you know, it's kind of like I always think about. I can't do anything without my elbow, right? I can't do anything without my hand. I can't do anything with just my leg. Like I need my foot. So it kind of goes back to the community and working together and not dividing, because from slavery, it's been about dividing and separation, you know, the light skin, the dark skin, in the house, in the field. And now it can be the same thing, but just in a different way. But it's always going to go back to division, and we don't work. Things don't work when you're divided. Things work when you are connected and you work together. Are we going to do it perfectly? No. Is there going to be conflict? Yes. But what is the big picture? What is the big picture? If you keep focused on the big versus on the big picture of what we can do and where we're going in the future versus what's going wrong, you could do so much more.
And then how do you get the community to shift their mind? It's something else that we talked about before. You can't make everyone. You just flat out can't. You can give the information and educate those that want to be educated and receive the information. And I was like, see someone said mentoring within the community, and you're not going to get everyone to join in on it. You're just not. You're going to get some.
I want to, like, because I do big. I know I have a mentee and I have.
Oh yeah, you're big on it.
Big brother, big sister, right? And last year there was a huge backlog. There was like 500 children. Of course, the majority of them were Black and Latino.
Right.
Majority of them were Black males, young Black males that did not have a mentor. Like,
because a lot of times, and I'm not trying to generalize anyone if I say this. If it sounds offensive, I sincerely apologize. But a lot of times, what I experience in the therapy I give, you have an overwhelming amount of Black mothers where the father may or may not be there, and they're looking for something to get their young men in.
But then in the community, there's a lot of Black men that can mentor these children.
I agree. I completely agree.
It doesn't take much time.
It doesn't.
So yes, mentoring in the community, and you don't just have to do big brother, big sister. Then you could just do your own.
You could just talk to people in your community.
And there are people who do it. But there is. I'm just going back to the fact that there were like 500 of those on the waiting list last year were Black males. That's
wild.
For big brother, big sister. And there's still a waiting list, but we did a huge push. Huge push.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I was putting that all on my Facebook. Yeah. It was a huge push for that.
And just to go back to that question, how would you actually want to shift the community mindset? I would just real simple change it from individualism to collectivism.
Yep.
That's what it has to go. That's what it
not me, we.
And collectivism is just more about it just goes back to that saying, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child. So just instead of it being about me and just my family, it's about us and everyone in this community. If I see Bianca struggling, I'm going to help Bianca because she's within my community. If I see Justin struggling, I'm going to help him because he's within my community. Not because they're just my friends, or not because, you know, they may not be blood, but they're in my community, and I'm going to help them. I'm going to uplift them because if they succeed, then I succeed.
Yeah.
So it's all about changing that mindset from individualism to collectivism. So
Less me, more we. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for watching.
Yes, thank you
all. If you have any questions, you can just always contact any one of us on our Facebook or Instagram pages.
Send us messages, everything. We'll gladly
and we
respond.
go back and we look at the comments. So if anyone is watching this after the broadcast, we go back and we look on the comments.
Yep.
So
yes,
absolutely.
It will be up on YouTube, on Bianca's YouTube, and on mine, probably within a few days.
Yeah, usually do better coming around that. It'd be like a day.
Don't Don't make that promise.
Don't put that pressure on us.
Make that promise.
It's coming to the end of the year. We're tired.
Got kids. But thank you all so much for tuning in. We greatly appreciate you all.
Absolutely.
We look forward to you all being with us in the next broadcast. We're definitely look to talk more about, what do you say, the black family?
Black family.
The black family.
Yeah.
Black family.
Black family.
What it's starting to look like and what it's slowly becoming, and
Globalism has undone that in my
the community aspect. That's true.
That is true.
All
I want
right.
to talk to that person offline because
I'm gonna send you her information.
She got some good stuff. Bro.
Yeah,
Alright.
she's a good one. All right, guys. Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Finish button. There we go. Ooh, all right.